Welcome to DevTech 101, aka Black Manta, as we discuss information technology, also known as IT. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing SB Senate Bill 396 to create Social Media Safety Act to require age verification for the use of media to clarify the liability for failure to perform age verification for the use of social media and illegal data retention.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
So the purpose of today's episode, you all, is going to be two parts. The part where we're going to be digging into the literacy rate among students and children is going to be on the Oreo Olive channel that I have. That's going to be much more general talk. This is specifically focused on the technical aspect, and I want to break it down from what I was reading on the bill earlier. Now, this bill was introduced on March the 9th, 2023, effective at about 1:28 p.m. in the afternoon. But what this bill has done, and this is not the first one, there have been other bills as well that have been passed in the state of Arkansas that has to do with social media privacy and protection and consumer rights. So you can most definitely look on the congress.gov site for S 1667 that specifically has to deal with like social media privacy protection and rights. But from a technical perspective, we all know that the usage of social media has increased over the course of time. Okay, it has increased to a point to where the average age of a kid having a social media account is right at about the age of 12 years old. Okay, 12 years old. So you have more children that are registering for social media accounts than they are registering for anything else. And when we determine social media account, we have to look at it across the full horizontal plane. We have to look at it from a LinkedIn perspective. Then we have to look at it from an entertainment perspective in regards to YouTube. We can look at Twitch. We can look at Twitter. We can look at Instagram. Any and all social media platforms where people are communicating and sharing information, because data is the new currency at this point in time. Now, just going over this bill, there has to be a reason why this bill came up. And there's a couple different points that we want to break down. So on face value, to create a social media safety act, when you're thinking about that, we do need to do something to protect the children online. Now, of course, the United States is different than a lot of countries. See, from a country perspective, it's a collective bill that's going to impact all. But in the U.S., it's really up to the states to decide which way that they're going to go in dealing with social media safety. Now, when you're looking at California with COPA laws and things like that, what we're doing is trying to figure out a way to ensure that minors are protected online. Now, when you start getting to age verification, that's where it's going to start getting a little bit gray. And here's why. So when you're looking at the age verification, you have to ask yourself, how will minors be able to verify if they don't have driver's license and IDs and things like that? So the way that it's looking is that parents will have to confirm that it's okay for minors to do this. Now, whether or not it's the state's responsibility to monitor the safety and concerns of minors being online, which on my other channel, I'm going to get into that from a parenting perspective, but we have to be sure that the information that children are seeing online, that they are appropriate age. And so there's going to be some ways to verify that to make sure that everything is okay. And then also for illegal data retention, meaning that things that you are doing online, if the device is connected to the internet, it's recording data and storing data somewhere. So we have to ask ourselves, who has keys to the data lakes. Data lakes meaning massive amounts of information that is out there. So think of it as like a lake is a body of water, but in the IT world, a data lake basically it's going to be meaning a repository or place where data is stored. Now, going over just a little bit, some of the parts here and using different chapters of the bill, the account holder is going to mean the individual who creates an account or profile for use on social media platforms. So whether it's the parent or the child creating the accounts, they're readily giving up information on the site that's going to ask for a name, whether they put a real name in there or not. How is that going to verify through whatever systems? How is that going to be hosted? They're posting that information on there. So they're putting in some type of email address, which can, even if you use a fake name, the email address is going or could definitely be linked back to a person's real name. So there's going to be ways in order to figure out who is actually who online. Now, that's one of the first parts of the subchapter. Well, the second part is Arkansas user, which means that an individual who is a resident of the state of Arkansas who has access or attempts to access a social media platform while present in the state by accessing social media platforms using Arkansas Internet Protocol address, basically an IP address. IP address is basically like a social security number to a computer. That means it's like no two devices will share the same IP address. So whether it's getting it from your cellular provider or it's getting it from your internet service provider, kids going to be probably using it on their phones. So you have to think about that part for that perspective. Now, commercial entity in regards to a corporation, LLC, partnership, and all of those other legally recognized entities. Now, commercial entities is going to include third parties. So there's going to be a form of what they will call a digitized identification card, which is a data file that's going to basically have information on the mobile device, and it's going to have internet through this state approved application, whatever that application may be. So we have to ask ourselves, what company is going to be verifying all of this? So remember, I asked you that a moment ago, that data is going somewhere. So we have to figure out what company are they, in terms of what company is the state of Arkansas approving to be the one all be all verification party to verify everybody is who they are. So that's something that we have to keep a watch out for with that. Now, that was going to allow the mobile device to download a file from the Office of Driver Services that contains all the data elements, okay, visible on the face and back of the driver's license identification card. So that means whatever third-party service is going to be. So basically how that works is when you have your cell phone, okay, your cell phone itself is going to be connected to a radio tower, or not radio tower, but basically a cell phone tower. Okay, we're going to just draw the little circle. Cell phone tower itself. Then what happens is the IP address that's on your phone, if it's in the state of Arkansas and it's registering and it's connecting to the cell phone tower, that cell phone tower is then connecting to a third party. Okay, that third party is basically going to be connecting to the driver's license service. Okay, the driver's license service. We have to figure out who this third party is. Who will be this third party that's going to be having this information? Okay, so we have to keep that in mind. By knowing that, that, because they always say your information is not going to be shared to third parties. It can be a fourth party or whatever. Once that's figured out, they're going to be verifying the information with the Office of Driver Services, and then that's going to include identification cards, including valid, expired, canceled, suspended, revoked, active, and inactive. Now, minors being that anyone that's going to be less than the age of 18. I know my drawing there is kind of a little bit crazy, but we'll get through it. So, the minor has to be less than under the age of 18. So basically, they're going to have to be almost out of high school before being able to get a social media account. And then you have another part. But here's the kicker, you all. What they're defining for a social media company is basically allows the user to generate short video clips, YouTube shorts, but it says short clips of dancing, voiceovers, and acts of entertainment. What social media platform do we have with that? TikTok. So there's another bill that's dealing with TikTok specifically, but this is most definitely for sure talking about TikTok, but it's other platforms, because people do it on other platforms too. And media companies, it talks about that in terms of gaming, online services. We've talked about that. Companies that offer cloud services, that can be from enterprise collaboration tools for kindergarten through grades 12. And there is a list of different things here. Now, social media platform, according to this bill, does not include online services or website or application if the predominant and exclusive function is email, which means that can be any of the email platforms, Google, Outlook, Hotmail, Yahoo, things like that. And videos that are sent, direct messaging, consisting of messages and photos or videos that are sent between devices, electronic devices. That means if the messages are shared between the sender and the recipient, so like FaceTime. So the question is whether or not social media is referring to a party of two or more, or what. Still a little bit vague, but it's getting there. Now, there are other parts of the bill. I'm not going to go over the full thing entirely. I want you to be able to go out there and read the full bill itself. But we do need to find a way that's going to be able to protect minors online. Now, me being a privacy or person that has studied IT policy, IT privacy, I definitely like the fact that we're trying to find a way to protect minors online. But never did I think that the state of Arkansas would actually have a bill that's going to try and focus on it and verify the information in the background. Yes, indeed, the children should be verifying with their parent. And there's a certain age, in my opinion, that I would recommend that children will start using social media on. But where this is going to get interesting is the amount of minors that's not going to be on social media, who is going to have access to the data, because we have to definitely talk about that. Now, here's the things I want you to think about. There's 5 things, 5 key points. Implementing strict age verification measures. Should that be at the mercy of the state, or should that be at the mercy of the company that owns the social media platform? Think about that. How far do we want to go with that? I may even have to break this video into more than one video to get through these points. Point number 2, monitoring or filtering of user generated content. So if they bypass the verification process and they're not supposed to, how is this going to be monitored or filtered for user generated content? Who's going to be doing the monitoring for that? Is it going to be a special investigative unit team that's going to be going over this? Then you have to look at also educating parents and caregivers on what to look for in terms of social media and youth. Are parents informed enough about it? What types of information are parents getting to inform themselves about it? Who can parents talk to if they have any questions about this? This is why I like doing this kind of topic on my channel. So parents, if you have any questions, please definitely reach out to me in the comments. I'll try to answer your questions as best as I can. But we have to ensure that whether they're using it or not, if the privacy and data protection measures are in place. So when you look at like GDPR, you see how protected and how thorough from a Eurocentric point that data protection is. But in the US, data protection is very loose. But then from the parent side, we have to be sure that our children are not putting in information that they should not be putting in to randomly give to someone else. And then from the social media platform side, they have to ensure that the personal data of minors is protected and not misused, because trust and believe that can be used for marketing purposes to push more product to the students. Then there's a big push for two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication encryption that basically verifies who they are, who they say they are, and everything. And also educating the minors to not share information with third parties or advertisers and other entities. So how is this all going to be monitored? And should anything go wrong within any of these measures, how will the state and these social media companies collaborate with law enforcement personnel? So if something goes wrong, what is necessary in order to get the data? So there's plenty of court cases out there that have been talked about, especially from Ring and Amazon and Apple have had law enforcement trying to get data from phones in order to solve crimes. Some of them are very interesting. You can definitely read about them. There's one about a hot tub in the state of Arkansas. Can't remember what city that's in, but definitely looked it up online. But it had to deal with an IoT device and whether or not if Amazon would release that information to law enforcement to help them with the case. But we have to understand what kinds of systems checks and balances do we have in place in terms of collaborating with law enforcement to make sure that that is okay. So overall, there's a bill, SB 396, in the state of Arkansas that has to deal with Social Media Safety Act and requiring age verification, how that's going to be required, who's going to authenticate and verify that, how data for minors is going to be transferred throughout the state and to these different parties, intra and interstate, and as far as like within and external as well. But definitely check it out, people. SB 396, Arkansas State Legislative. Thank you for tuning in today. Like, listen, subscribe. DivTech 101, aka Black Mental. Look forward to bringing more content to you soon.